Hello, everybody, and welcome to Asgard. This is going to be the first ever wrestling stream, and so for those that don't know the new schedule, on Wednesday mornings, we are going to talk some wrestling on the Welcome to Asgard secondary channel, and also on DLive and Periscope as well. So if you're on Periscope and you want to get in on the action, please go ahead and check out the DLive link. Go ahead and check out my DLive account, or possibly check out the Welcome to Asgard YouTube channel link as well. So what is going on, everybody? Alex McCarthy, I already knew you'd be in this chat. Alex McCarthy is in here. Says WWE, no question. They have Triple H, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, and of course the goddess Alexa Bliss. Interesting. He also says that he was watching SmackDown. He did watching last night's SmackDown during this stream. Yeah, that was the one thing I was not able to do. And so instead of this being a recap of rather Raw and SmackDown, which is what these are normally going to be. These are normally just going to be my thoughts on the wrestling for the week. And so obviously at this point in time, that would be WWE, Raw, and SmackDown. And then in the future, in the fall, when SmackDown moves to Fridays, and theoretically and hopefully we have some AEW on Tuesday nights on TNT TBS, then I'll be able to talk about both of those next to each other. But at this point in time, we just have one main topic in mind, and that is the WWE versus AEW. So for those that don't know, AEW had its second large show, or actually first show as AEW, like as an official company, in Double or Nothing this past weekend. And it was incredible. I don't know if anyone was able to watch it or catch it, but holy crap, it was absolutely amazing. Some of the wrestling was not only some of the best wrestling that I've ever seen, but the storytelling was truly top-notch. And I think that's something that modern-day wrestling, especially mainstream when it comes to WWE stuff, is really missing out on, unless, of course, you go to NXT, is the storytelling in the ring has just been absolutely awful. I mean, for the main shows, for Raw and SmackDown. And I really do think that one of the main reasons why this is the case, and one of the things that's hurting the WWE especially, is this deal that they have going on right now with Saudi Arabia. Because Saudi Arabia is now creating a situation where the WWE is having to essentially either put storylines on halt or create random storylines out of thin air, and all of it is to try and prop up this relationship and this deal that they have with each other. And I think that in the end, it's going to be a terrible deal for the WWE, because I think that it really is hurting their public image, them doing work with Saudi Arabia, especially last year in the wake of all of the news that was coming out about Saudi Arabia taking out a member of the press. And when stuff was still very much up in the air, some things were actually very, very clear that people were involved in the process. And I really do think that they've hurt themselves because of that. But in the end, too, it does point to an even bigger problem, which is the fact that WWE has a very big problem when it comes to long-term story building on the main show. Now, again, we can talk about NXT. NXT, obviously, is a excellent third brand. And I really do wish, though, and here's the problem, that they would actually treat it as a third brand. Because sometimes they do. Sometimes they make it seem like NXT is indeed a third, exclusive WWE brand. But then there's other times that they remind you the performance center, developmental, etc. And I think that one way that they could fix that is by having talent move among all of the brands. Now, of course, that would cause some problems with contracts, with as far as how much they're paying their wrestlers and things like that, which is the reason why AEW, I think, is so important. And what AEW is trying to do is so crucial, because AEW is trying to essentially change the entire game. Is trying to change the wrestling world as we know it, as we see it. And I honestly believe that AEW has the potential to be the very future of wrestling, and that their show Double or Nothing this past weekend shows you that when people are given control, when wrestlers especially are given control of their characters, are given control of things they want to do, are not limited by PG era politics, are not limited by the old school thought processes of an old man running a company, Vince McMahon, you can see just how great the wrestling can actually be, just how great the storytelling can actually be. And when you have both of those elements together, you have a great wrestling product. The mistake to be made here is that wrestling fans only want wrestling. Yes, obviously, wrestling fans would love to have great matches all the time, which is why NXT does so very well. But you can have great wrestling matches, but you can also have those same matches have terrible storytelling. And what AEW is really doing at this point is showing you a great mix of those two things. Having great wrestling matches for the sake of great wrestling matches, but then also, and I would say for the majority of their matches, having excellent, top-tier, top-notch wrestling, but also with top-tier, top-notch storytelling, 5-star wrestling matches almost every single time they have put something on. I mean, go ahead and look to their last 2 pay-per-views. Look to their first, and just how great that was. And the storytelling in this past one, Double or Nothing, was truly incredible. Not just the things that were going on in the ring among the wrestlers in the ring, but also the external battle that was very clear that this was an attack. This was the shot across the bow of, or rather, across the shot across the bow of the nose of the WWE, especially when he brought out that throne representing Triple H and the sledgehammer. That moment when Cody Rhodes smashed it and destroyed the throne of Triple H was absolutely incredible. It truly was. All right. Anyway, I just want to get my opening thoughts out of the way, going now into the chat. So we are now on the Welcome to Asgard channel on YouTube, so I have that chat popped up. So if you want to get my attention, you do need to tag in the channel name at Welcome to Asgard. That's just because of the way that the nature of the beast works. All right, what is going on, every single person in here? Kim Can Park, good morning to you. Go over on D Live. Dion, good day to you. Kim Can Carp, thank you very much. Kim Can Park, thank you very much for the lemon donation. Dion says, I'm not a wrestling fan. Yes, I know the bad guys, but I'm here to support Odin and have something to listen to while flying, so all is good. Awesome, Dion. Well, thank you very much for your support. I appreciate it. Thank you for the lemon as well. Brad Bear Hunter says, AEW. Absolutely. AEW is absolutely incredible at this point. But thank you very much for the 5 lemons as well. That is fantastic. WWE is in a lot of trouble. Absolutely. The WWE is in major trouble because not only did you have that venue sell out as quickly as it did, but also, and I don't know the numbers officially on this yet, you had a crap ton of people buying this pay-per-view and spending money on it. Now, I will say this much. I really hope that once AEW gets going, they're able to provide for a way similar to the network where you can pay a flat fee and get access to those shows for much cheaper. Now, they might not be able to do that since they're obviously trying something a little bit different by trying to offer wrestlers, for example, healthcare, better contracts. So they might not be able to afford to do some type of wrestling content with having their own network type show. But obviously, too, we need to have an actual established show, an established canon, before it makes sense to even do that, because obviously there is no library of content that they can have access to quite yet. Utopia's Dead says, decent beard. Decent beard? Why, I'm offended by that. I am quite offended by that indeed. Bot says, great beard. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it. Let's see. Spit Roast Smith, thank you very much for the lemon and the ice cream as well. That is awesome. Spit Roast Smith, thank you so much, man, for your support. I really do appreciate it. Mr. Roy, thank you for the lemon. I appreciate that as well. All right, Alex McCarthy says, Vince McMahon needs to retire. Triple H has been doing wonders with NXT. I bet once Triple H is in charge of all, then the quality will rise. Here's the problem, Alex McCarthy, because I would agree with that to a point. I think that Triple H has shown in NXT that he has a very firm grip of how to do great long-term booking, of how storytelling in the ring is supposed to do, because he has the talent to be able to do that. The problem with the main show, though, is its length. Because even if you were to have a Triple H in charge, a 3-hour show is insane. You are essentially putting on a pay-per-view every single week. So if he was able to finally find that, that magic, I guess you could say that magic working, that magic formula to make the 3-hour format work, then obviously that would be incredible and it would be revolutionary. But at this point in time, I just don't see a way in which you can make the 3 hours work. So I would say that if Triple H takes over, which I really hope he does at some point, because, again, he knows how to do a lot. NXT has shown that. I think that taking off that extra hour would be crucial, but that is hard to do because of the contracts they have with the USA Network, because the USA Network offered them a crap ton of money in order to have that extra hour, because they wanted to have that extra hour for advertisers. But keep in mind that extra hour now has led to essentially dead time on air, stupid storytelling, stupid behind-the-scenes segments, wasted potential, wasted wrestlers, and honestly, I think that it has crippled the show in a lot of ways. So even with Triple H being in charge, I think that would only solve part of the problem, because you still have that major issue of the 3-hour time slot filling weekly. Yes, you have a lot of wrestlers, But do you really want to overexpose your wrestlers every single week? Do you really want to overwork your wrestlers in matches every single week? And would that be something that you could do while also keeping the same contracts in line and therefore keeping the same profit margins in line? So I think that those are definitely things that need to be taken into account that usually aren't, especially when it comes to being critical of the WWE, which of course I'm extremely critical of, even though I still watch it every single week. Oh man. John Early says, is the WWE film Fighting With My Family any good? By the way, have you seen the documentary Hitman Heart Wrestling with the Shadows and Beyond the Mat? I have not seen any of those documentaries. Unfortunately, Beyond the Mat I know is a must watch, and so that is definitely something that's been on my list for a long time. I did see Fighting With My Family. I like Fighting With My Family. However, because I watched those events happen, I watched, Paige in NXT, and then I watched her debut on the main show and all that stuff, I didn't like how they changed certain elements to that for greater dramatic effect. Basically, they make it so that Paige freezes up in the ring in her first match with AJ Lee, which is not what happens in real life. So I didn't like how they did that. I didn't like those types of changes when it's things that we can go back and watch the original footage of and say, okay, this is obviously not true. Behind the scenes stuff with their family, I'm sure a lot of that stuff was exaggerated, but that's where you can exaggerate because you're telling someone's story, and obviously someone's story, you're going to need to be able to take certain liberties with certain things. But when they came to the stuff that was actually televised and changing the way that it was presented, that personally I wasn't a huge fan of. But overall, the movie was good. Like, other than those nitpick things, the movie was very good. It was very well acted, and I think that it definitely presented wrestling in a very positive light. Rapper says, my lord, I'm here to talk wrestling. Good stuff indeed. Good stuff indeed. The Senate says, I don't even watch wrestling, but hello. Well, the Senate, thank you very much for stopping by. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. Alex McCarthy says, AEW will do great. I mean, they do have the Ayatollah, sorry. They do have the Ayatollah of rock and roll, Chris Jericho. They do. And I will say this much. Chris Jericho's new gimmick is pretty great. It's amazing how that man, over the course of, 20 years or so, has reinvented himself so many times. And each time it has been amazing. Each time it has been something new, something different, and I would say he's like hit it on the head every single time. And his match with Kenny Omega at Double or Nothing was storytelling gold, but also showed that both of those guys, Chris Jericho especially, who's in his, mid-late 40s at this point, still has so much talent in the ring. But also the decision of that match, the ending of that match with Jericho, and again, spoilers, of course, here. I mean, you should be able to know all the spoilers at this point. With Jericho winning that match, I think that shows that they have a lot of confidence in him to carry a show, especially since he is the one that's going to be fighting Hangman Page in the main event of their next big show, which, to be honest, I don't know what they're going to do. Because I could see it working either way. I could see them saying, we wanted Chris Jericho to be here to help prop up Hangman Page because, of course, Jericho is an excellent worker in the ring, so why wouldn't you want to have him in there to help really boost Hangman Page to the level of the same style of, or rather, to the same level of Chris Jericho as far as name recognition is concerned. However, I could also see them giving the title to Chris Jericho first because Chris Jericho is also, again, already a big name. And to say he is the first ever AEW heavyweight champion, I mean, I could see how they could easily put that into the contracts, but also I think it would be best for business, as the term usually goes. John Early says, I played WWE SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain on the PlayStation 2. That's how long it's been since I played a WWE video game. It's been so long. The last video game I played, I want to say was on a... Oh, Lord. I want to say... No, you know what? The last game I officially played for a wrestling game was N64. And I want to say it was No Mercy. No. It was one of the first modern... Oh, gosh. Maybe I did play on a system. The one I only remember the one. The only game I can remember, though, that I played, that I loved, and I played like hours upon hours, was WWE No Mercy on the N64. That might be the best wrestling game of all time. That is an excellent one. WCW versus NWO World Tour is a great one, too. And I would say the one that always makes me laugh, though, is I want to say it's WWF Raw. Maybe it's WWF Attitude or WWF Raw is War. And it's the most basic movement patterns. It is the hardest game to play because you have to basically unlearn everything from the previous games and how they played for stamina and everything. And it's completely new and completely different. I forget the name of it. Maybe someone in the chat is going to actually be able to know it. But man, oh man, I can tell you this much. It was such a fun game. Like No Mercy was such a fun game, but even that one too, because you did get to actually update, you did get actually to create your own wrestlers too, but it was a very basic setup. It was interesting. Random. Yeah, I'm about to say, we're not doing any Ryan Johnson movie stuff today, so let's keep everything AEW related as well. So Random, that's why I'm skipping your comments, man, because we're keeping everything wrestling related. Asgardian says, Y2J has been around since 91, I believe. Yeah, he's been around for a long time, and I remember him back in WCW time, and it was, again, he was awesome. He was so underrated, so underutilized in the WCW, and then when he transitioned to WWE, it was fantastic, and then, of course, once again, was not truly utilized to his potential, at least right away. Eventually, he became the undisputed champion, which was awesome, by the way. That whole story arc stuff was freaking great, and I loved it. It was so damn good. Larry says, my local announcer would always end the broadcast saying, watch out for flying chairs. Yeah, seriously, right? Senate says, I'm a youngster, so I played 2K wrestling. Hey, man, yeah, I definitely know of 2K, and I've seen the gameplay for it. I just don't have any modern systems. I'm not much of a gamer. The most modern system I have is, I guess, a PS3 and a Nintendo Wii. The Nintendo Wii, I only play for Wii Sports because that's the only game really worth playing on that. I do want to get Double Dash at some point because that's a GameCube game that you can play on the Nintendo Wii because of the backwards compatibility. But that's pretty much all I play on it. And then the PS3 is a glorified Blu-ray player that now my wife is using, actually, hilariously enough. Now she's using it to play games herself. She's actually in the process of playing Heavy Rain, which she is currently really, really enjoying. Israel Production says, NWO World Tour was amazing. It had a ninja character in there, and I immediately gravitated towards him. Yeah, dude, I would actually say my favorite character in WCW versus NWO World Tour was probably the Frankenstein character, if anyone remembers, because his finisher was the Cesaro swing, which is now known as the Cesaro swing. And every time that he would swing, it would be the funniest sound you would ever hear, because all of a sudden he would just go, ooh, and it was great. It was so freaking funny. So yeah, that game, so much nostalgia. Joe K470. Joe K470, just so you know, because we're on the Welcome to Asgard channel, the Odin question's not going to pop up. So just put at Welcome to Asgard. But the chat is pretty slow today, so it shouldn't be hard for me to keep up with people that don't do that. Let's see. He says, I hope AEW learns from the mistakes of the TNA Impact Wrestling made. It's a shame that Impact could have been a solid number 2, but now they reduced to the Pursuit channel on Fridays. Well, the biggest problem I would say with TNA was management. No question about it, because they had the raw talent. They had the ability to tell stories in the ring. The problem is that they had this takeover that happened when you had all of these former WCW, WWE guys coming in, and it was meant to be a way of saying, hey, bring your eyes over here. But they gave them too much power. They gave them too much to do, and they didn't focus on and let shine forth their younger, better, more talented, talent, as it were. So, yeah, I think that AEW has a much better grip on things. One, because it's being headed by Cody Rhodes, who knows wrestling. I mean, he is by far one could easily say that the Rhodes family is a royal family in the wrestling business just because of, the dream. But he's got his brother with him too, and his brother has been not only in ring, but also behind the ring. He has been I think he's been a producer, at least a trainer. So he's got so many people. Dean Malenko just joined with him too. He's got so many people that are coming out of the woodwork, going over, transitioning to AEW. He's got so much support, some of the most talented people in the world helping him out. And also, he's already got plenty of knowledge himself. He's a younger guy, he's in his 30s, but he's already got so much wrestling experience because of his father and because of his time in the WWE. And I really do think that it's because of those experiences and because of the people that he is putting around him that show, when it comes out, that weekly show, is going to be, and as we can assume because of the copyright claim that was made on this title, absolute dynamite. And I'm hoping it's Tuesday Night Dynamite because that just really plays off the tongue. Not to mention Tuesday Night Dynamite, TND. You can easily rhyme that with TNT. I don't know. It kind of sells itself. But I am very excited for it. I honestly cannot wait for the fall is when that's supposed to come out. And man, it's going to, it looks great. It looks great. Alex McCarthy says, one problem WWE needs to fix, Brock Lesnar. He needs to just go. He was awesome in 2002, 2004. See, yeah, Brock Lesnar is a person, and that's all Vince McMahon. Brock Lesnar is a perfect example of how Vince McMahon is almost single-handedly destroying the WWE product because he's giving that man so much money, wasting money in my opinion, Because in his mind, oh, it's a big name. It's a big draw. We're going to bring in people. Now, that might be true in certain places. He might be a draw to certain people. However, giving him the title is the biggest mistake. I don't think Brock Lesnar is a terrible person to be around the WWE. He is, however, a terrible champion. And so therefore, I understand that you think that he should go, and I would agree with you to an extent. My criticism would be he needs to get away from the title picture, or at least the main title picture. Because by giving the title to him and allowing him to be dominant and then him just not showing up and the championship just disappearing is just stupid, and it's selfish, and it's something that is totally just saying a screw you, a giant F you to the fan base. And so I'm overall just very ticked off by that whole agreement that they have. So I don't have a problem with him being around necessarily, but him being in the title picture is by far one of the worst decisions that they can make, for sure. Cobra Viber 999 and Patrick McDuffer in the chat. What's going on, peeps? John Early says, I really like the 1998 WWF Royal Rumble and the 1998 WWF WrestleMania. I used to have them on VHS box set. If they were on Blu-ray, I'd buy them again. Yeah, man, I would say one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time is actually WCW pay-per-view, and it would probably be Halloween Havoc 98. It was a great pay-per-view. And because old school Crow Sting was one of my favorite wrestlers. Mostly because he looked like a badass. Every time they would show him in the rafters with the crow, it was awesome. It was such a great character. It was amazing. The Senate says, have you played Mortal Kombat? If so, well, we're not going to talk about Mortal Kombat because that's not wrestling related. So, but no, I'm not much of a gamer. All right, heading over to my D-Live peeps. Bot says wrestlers need a union. Well, that's the one really cool thing, I think, that AEW is trying to do is not necessarily have a union, but definitely allowing them to be able to have more open contracts, the ability to move away, to do other things, to do independent work outside of AEW. Having, I think, access to healthcare is one of the things that they are trying to do in those contracts too. And so I think AEW is trying to essentially change the entire dynamic, change the entire wrestling business. And I really think that they have shown themselves to be very capable of doing that, not only by getting some of the biggest names in wrestling to sign on board, but making Vince McMahon so terrified that Vince is literally tying people down in their contracts. I mean, you're hearing these horror stories. Now, they're mostly rumors, but you're hearing these horror stories about how there are wrestlers that are pleading to have their contracts be let go. And Vince is not letting a single one of them go, even though he's not using a single person. The ones that I'm talking about here. There are people that are not being utilized and have no plans to be utilized who want to go, who say, all right, then just let me out of my contract. But he's not, because he knows that if he does, they're going to go to AEW. Just look what happened to Dean Ambrose. Now, Moxley went immediately to AEW. And it was amazing because so many people were saying, oh, no, I think it's real. I think he wants to retire. I think that he wants to step back. And then as soon as his contract was out, guess what happens? Promo video. And everyone pretty much said, okay, this is a really high-quality promo video. It's obvious that he's going to have some involvement with AEW, and now he's signed a multi-year deal with AEW. So they're afraid. Vince is afraid that if he doesn't hold on like a vice grip to these contracts, that he's going to lose so many more talented people that are going to bring even more eyes over to AEW. The problem, though, is that by Vince doing this, he is pissing off his own locker room, he is pissing off his own wrestlers, and now he is motivating even more people to join up. And that's why I think you're seeing people like Dean Malenko, why you're seeing some people that have been like WWE standards for a long time being totally willing to go over and to help out, because they see that Vince is not willing to change and has gotten to the point now where he wants to just destroy the wrestling business, as it were, in order to keep some sense of control. And I think in the end, it's going to screw him over big time. Dion says, but I do have a question. Well, this has any bearing on XFL, because I thought McMahon owns the XFL and WWE. So yeah, so McMahon is starting up his own football. So he's trying again, XFL 2.0 essentially. And I want to say that's starting, 2020, I believe is the year that's starting. And so that's the question there is going to be, is he going to let go of the reins of Raw and SmackDown to Triple H or to someone else and spend most of his time focusing on that, or is he going to try and pull double duty? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. And based on what we're seeing here, though, especially since AEW is now posing a very real and credible threat, I would not be surprised if Vince tries to split himself in two to try and make sure that both programs are run very well. But I can tell you this much. If he wanted to, if he really cared that much about having the WWE take off, he would take a step back. He would allow for more creative minds to come in, and he would allow for it to be wrestling again. Not just entertainment, not world entertainment, but wrestling. Because wrestling can have storylines. Wrestling can be entertaining. But to stifle wrestling for the sake of so-called entertainment is killing the WWE's product. And with AEW offering not only excellent wrestling, but also on top of that, an excellent storyline, that is so compelling. It's going to bring a lot of people. A lot of people are going to make the switch over. I really honestly believe that. Frank the Tank, what's going on, Frank the Tank? How's it going? How is it going, good sir? Brad says, did you catch Paige versus Pac? It's on YouTube. I have not seen that match, but I heard it's amazing. So I definitely want to check that out at some point. Kim Camp Park says, my favorite Jericho is Y2J versus Rock Persona. What was yours? Ooh, yeah. So I think Y2J was awesome. His first introduction into the WWF at that time from after WCW was fantastic. So yeah, the him versus The Rock, that was a great program. I will say though, I have a very soft spot in my heart for one of his most recent iterations when he was best friends with Kevin Owens. The Festival of Friendship might be one of my favorite things that he's done, because the fact that he was able to get a scarf over, the fact he was able to get a clipboard over, shows you the talent. I don't think it has much to do with the things and the words being said as it has to do with the fact that he was so committed to the character and it was completely his own that he got it over. And that's why he's a great, talented guy, because he's able to get pretty much anything over, if you really think about it. The fact that he was able just to do a click of the pen and everyone's just freaking out going, oh, it's like, you know what that means? You know what happens when people screw over Chris Jericho? You just made the list. By the way, I've used that several times as a teacher, because there are times when I have to make a list of students that are sleeping or screwing off. And so sometimes I've been like, hey, you know what just happened? You just made the list, bud. And I'm sure none of them ever got my reference. So yeah, definitely love. I love old school Y2J for sure. Even Lionheart. Again, I think there's only ever been one, I would say, bad version of Y2J, and it was the time he came back for a very, very short time. And I remember this promo because it just was so bizarre. And it was when he came back, he won the match, and then he just came out and started coming up to the camera, smiling, and that was it. He was just smiling, and he was just saying nonsense. And that's all he would do. And that's what he did for like a week. But then he like disappeared. And I was like, what the hell was that supposed to be? And then, of course, eventually he came back and he was a little bit more normal. But I was just like, okay, that was like the one time. And it was a very short run before he went back on tour with Fozzy. But I was like, oh my God, what in the heck was that? Bot, thank you very much for the 3 lemon donation. I appreciate that. Frank says, I'd like to see you as an announcer. Man, that'd be fun. It would be really fun, but man, to keep up with that with ADD, I can only imagine that would be insane. Kim Camp Park, thank you very much for the lemon. Appreciate it, bruv. Thank you so much. Brad Beer Hunter, thank you for the 3 lemon donations. Frank, thank you for the lemon as well. And Dion, thank you for the ice cream. Thank you very much. All right, back over to the YouTube chats. Let's see. Alex McCarthy says, not familiar with lots of the AEW roster because I don't really watch much of the independents. For example, the only women in the roster I know of are Brandy and Allie. Yeah, I don't know much of them either, only by reputation, really. I mean, even Hangman Page I only know because of the last pay-per-view and because of AEW. So yeah, there's a lot of people, and that's what I like, is that they're introducing people that have been big on the independent scene for a long time, but have never really gotten to a more mainstream audience. And so having them being able to have this weekly show on TBS or TNT or whatever the station ends up being, I think is going to be crucial for them, because it's going to allow for them to be able to expose wrestlers to more people. But as I said, the contracts, I think, are the biggest key to the AEW success. And the reason why is because by offering these contracts that allow wrestlers to go and wrestle in other promotions and allow them a little bit more freedom with their characters is something that most wrestlers are living for. And so I think by doing that, they're more likely to get some of these bigger names, some people from New Japan, some people from these companies that are very big in certain markets that maybe don't want to go full-time AEW, but can at least have a provisional contract where they can come in and do a pay-per-view event. That's what's really cool about it, is that they can literally, the world's their oyster. The world is literally their oyster in this point, and I think it is pretty damn cool. And I can't wait to see more. I really can't. And I cannot wait for their weekly show. I'm so pumped for their weekly show. Favorite character, Senate says. Favorite character, you mean favorite character, favorite wrestler of all time? Man, I always go back and forth with it because obviously I have soft spots in my heart for people like Undertaker. I loved Undertaker. I loved Crow Sting. Crow Sting may have been one of my all-time favorites. Crow Sting was fantastic. But as far as like now, I'm mostly a CM Punk guy. And the reason why, of course, not only was the dude a great wrestler, but also Pipe Bomb to this day is just unforgettable. It changed the whole dynamic. In my mind, I think the Pipe Bomb that CM Punk dropped made more people realize, oh, there is an underground to the WWE. There is a behind the scenes. And I think that's what got more people interested, more mainstream people interested in behind the scenes rumors, talk, speculation, etc. So CM Punk, I love for that reason alone. Not to mention the fact that he is an excellent wrestler on top of that. And man, oh man, I really, I'm praying that he somehow is able to come back into the WWE, not the WWE, sorry, not the WWE, to come into AEW at some point in time. Especially knowing that if he wants to continue to do his, MMA, which again, I don't think that's wise. I know that it's a passion of his, but it's obviously not working out for him. But if he wants to continue to do that, I honestly think the Young Bucks and Cody would say, hey man, sign a contract with us and we'll provide for you, very lenient dates so that you only have to show up a certain amount of times, etc. And he even said that if he was going to come back to wrestling, it would be with AEW. It would be with those kind of people. And I am just praying and hoping for the day that is announced because that is going to be something that I would want to go to live. If he is ever confirmed for a pay-per-view for AEW, even if it's not close to me, that would be a pay-per-view that I personally would go to because who knows? That could be the only match that he ever does, live for the rest of his life. And I would love to be there to actually witness it. John Early over on YouTube says, the WCW film Ready to Rumble was kind of stupid, Allfather. Dude, it's stupid, but it's hilarious. It's stupid, but it's hilarious and it's awesome. Oh man, I love Ready to Rumble. That movie is hilarious. It is stupid, for sure, but I would say that would fall in line with Guilty Pleasure. That would definitely fall in line with Guilty Pleasure. Because, man, but I do love it. Intertrap Production says, I have WWE 2K16, my lord. One of these days, I plan to do a stream where I make custom wrestlers based on the Phantom Menace. Is there an intro song you want for your wrestler? CM Punk's original music, if it's available. Actually, no, 2K16 wouldn't have CM Punk, would it? Oh, man. If it did have CM Punk, I would say Fire Burns, the original theme song for CM Punk, because I love that song so much. And if not that, then the theme song for Edge, which definitely would be on there as him being a Legends character, likely by 2K16, because that Alter Bridge theme is so damn good. On this day, I see clearly everything has come to life. I don't know why. I love those rock songs. Alex McCarthy says, I hope Billy Gunn steps in the ring at AEW. I was a big fan of Mr. Ass back in the day. That's the thing about Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn is great behind the scenes. He's also great in the ring. Him and Road Dogg still can go. There are certain groups out there that can still put on an excellent show. And that's what's great, too, about AEW is that they can have those moments. They can bring in old school wrestlers, sign them for these provisional contracts, and people can be like, hey, we're going to sell this show because, hey, guess who's going to show up? One time only, or a rarity, or something to that effect. So again, the world is AEW's oyster. That's why so much is on them. But as I said, because you have someone who is a part of a great wrestling family in Cody Rhodes, helped by his brother, and helped by all of those people that he's putting around them, I really honestly believe that AEW is being set up for tremendous amounts of success. Let's just hope and pray that someone at the top doesn't screw it up at some point. But yeah, Billy Gunn, I would love to see in the room. I would love to see him in the ring again. As McCarthy says, Jericho was epic. List of Jericho, that was definitely one of my favorite reinventions. Oh my God, the List of Jericho was so damn good. I mean, seriously, for it to be wrestling drama, which is pretty much what it is, the Festival of Friendship. Even though I knew it was I knew it was coming, when he said, why is my name on the list? Because of the fact that I love both of those actors, I love both of those wrestlers so much. I mean, I bought hook, line, and sinker to that storyline, and I was just like, no. Obviously, I wasn't to the point of crying or anything, but at the same time, I was invested to the point of, no, KO, what are you doing? Damn it, you've ruined it. You've ruined the greatest friendship of all time. Slice of Neons, what's going on, man? Alice McCarthy says, my all-time favorite wrestler is Triple H. My current era fave is Seth Rollins. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I mean, Triple H, I think, is someone who is definitely the most impressive. I would say Triple H has one of the most impressive stories behind the scenes. The fact that he's been able to build himself up so high in this company has been truly amazing thing to see. And also, his creative mind is brilliant. Except when it comes to his ring entrances nowadays. His ring entrances are kind of lame. But the fact that he's able to do those things he's doing in NXT are things definitely that are worth talking about. Because I'm definitely not a guy that's going to just completely crap on the WWE all the time. Because I do like NXT, and I love some of the wrestlers. Seth Rollins is a great wrestler, for example. But man, could you imagine Seth Rollins in AEW right now? Obviously, I think Seth Rollins is going to be pretty much a WWE guy for the rest of his career because he's probably getting a crap ton of money. He's in the championship picture. They're treating him very well. It seems like he's a good fit there. But man, oh man, if the day were to ever come where he got screwed over or anything, and I would love to see Moxley versus Rollins or whatever. I forgot. I don't know what Rollins' original wrestling independent name was, but that could be a fun match. Alex McCarthy says, favorite Edge theme was Rob Zombie. Nice. John Lee says, speaking of CM Punk, he was in an episode of Ghost Hunters before it was canceled. By the way, I remember the video game website IGN making a big deal out of Edge retiring. Yeah, dude, it was insane. It was absolutely insane. And it was so sad. It really was. Because when real life stuff comes in, it's so depressing, you know? Because these are guys that don't want to retire, you know, men and women that don't want to retire. Like, his was hard, Paige's was hard too. Because, you know, obviously that, you know, any retirement where it's like just so real that it's just, it's rough. But guys, I did mention this on Twitter. This week has to be shorter because I do have an appointment at 10. So I am just gonna square up on some of these donations on DLive. Before heading out and read some last-minute chats. So, Brad, thank you very much for the 3 lemons. Frank, thank you for the lemon. Dion, thank you for the ice cream as well. Ram Russo, thank you very much for the lemon, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. Peabody, thank you for the ice cream as well. Bot says, I'm an MMA fan and I was a Ronda Rousey fan. How do you think she is doing as a wrestler? I think that she's doing fine as a wrestler, to be honest. The fact that I respect Ronda Rousey because she says, no, hit me. Like, she is like the Joker in the ring. She's like, come on, hit me. And she takes real bumps, and that's always cool to see. It's cool to see when a guy does it, but to see a woman do it especially, I mean, let's be honest, it's pretty badass to see. Okay, man, thank you for the 2 lemons. Gothic Nightmare, thank you very much for the ice cream. I appreciate it. Frank says, we know you cried. No, I didn't cry. I was definitely upset, though. Kim Cam Park, thank you very much for the lemon. And Peabody, thank you for the ice cream. And Gothic Nightmare, thank you. Tyler Black was his independent name. Yeah, dude, I would love Tyler Black versus Moxley. Wouldn't that be a really cool thing to see in AEW? That could be so awesome. Alex McCarthy says, yeah, Tyler Black. All right, cool. So I am now caught up on the lemons on DLive and also on the chats on YouTube. Guys, thank you so much. And again, very sorry, so very sorry indeed that this is so short. So next week, it will be longer. Next week, it'll go all the way until about 10:30. So it's going to be an hour-and-a-half stream. That is the plan so far. So thank you so much for being a part of this first stream. And thank you for understanding, obviously, because I do have an appointment. And it was one of those things where the appointment was made before I established the schedule. And so now that the schedule is established, next time I schedule an appointment, it'll obviously be, outside of the streaming time periods. But guys, thank you so much for being a part of the stream. Hope you enjoyed it. I know that there are some wrestling fans out there that have been wanting for us to talk about wrestling. I know this is just a little bit, about 40 minutes or so. I do plan on doing longer shows in the future, but also I plan on doing some recaps of the wrestling too. For example, Raw and SmackDown recaps, NXT if I can. Well, obviously NXT won't be able to do that unless I do spoilers because NXT premieres tonight on the network. But anyway, guys, thank you guys so very much for being a part of this stream. I hope you have a wonderful day. I do have to head out. I do have to head over to my appointment now. But seriously, you're amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day. And as always,